Hi everyone, it's John Mitchell. In the last video we looked at the centralised and decentralised employee relations systems. Now we're going to focus just on the decentralised system and look at the types of agreements that are involved. So as we've moved from a centralised approach to a decentralised approach, because of enterprise bargaining has been in play, as the agreements have actually changed. So we're going to look at the different types of agreements that exist in our current system, and the ones we're going to focus on are the awards, collective agreements and individual contracts. There are some other types of agreements that are available in a decentralised system, and if you want to know more about them, you can go to the Fair Work website. However, these are the ones that are written into the study design, and we're going to focus on these ones because of that. So first of all, we'll start with awards, which we spoke about lots when we looked at the centralised employee relations system. And even though enterprise bargaining exists now in our current system, awards have never been abolished. They're still in play. So what they do is set the bare minimum for minimum standards for wages and employment conditions in a particular industry. So remember that awards cover an entire industry, and now in our decentralised system they set the minimum for that particular industry, so that if an organisation doesn't have an enterprise bargaining agreement, then the employees will fall onto the award, which gives them that real safety net that it means that the employer can't pay them below the actual what's stipulated in the award and can't give them conditions that are below what's in the award. In most cases, employees have been able to negotiate for conditions above the award through enterprise bargaining, but that safety net is still there. So in that negotiation period, the awards sets the bare minimum for that particular industry and gives that real safety net for employers, so that when they actually negotiate, they're negotiating for wages and conditions above the award. Now, a collective agreement, this is a type of enterprise bargaining agreement, and it's a contract between or an agreement between an employer and a group of employees, often a union involved that represents the employees during the negotiation. And collective agreements cannot go below the award for that industry, which I said in the last slide. Collective agreements, they normally last for 3 years and must include an expiry date as well as a procedure for dispute resolution, so that if a dispute does occur during the time of the agreement, there's every collective agreement has to outline what the steps to take are to resolve that dispute. Both parties should negotiate in good faith when they're negotiating a collective agreement. So that means that they're taking on board what the other party wants, and any offer that's made, that they seriously consider it before saying yes or no. When both parties have agreed to terms for a collective agreement, it's then sent to the Fair Work Commission for approval, and they will check that the things in it that the employees have voted, more than 50% of the employees have voted yes for it, that there has been bargaining in good faith, that it doesn't undercut the award. So we call that the no disadvantage test, to ensure that employers are not disadvantaged on an agreement compared to the award, so that they're better off on the enterprise bargaining agreement or the collective agreement. And then once they've decided all of those things, then it will be approved. Now, individual agreements, these are not stipulated through Fair Work. What they are is a individual common law contract. So they are common among high salary earners and are enforced in the same way as a normal common law contract. So if any dispute arises, it doesn't go to Fair Work Australia or the Fair Work Commission. What it does is they go through the courts. All disputes and settlements are settled through the court because it is simply a common law contract. So as I said, it's normally for high salary earners, where executives and people like that, because it's just a common law. So it's really quite often above and beyond the award. Well, it has to be above and beyond the award, but also it's normally above and beyond the collective agreement that other employees are on. Now, the National Employment Standards, I thought it was important to mention the National Employment Standards. Look, this isn't a type of agreement or anything, but it's important to note what the National Employment Standards are. And there are 10 minimum employment entitlements that have to be provided to all employees in Australia. There's obviously the minimum wage that sets out, and then there's, on top of that, there's also the National Employment Standards. And an award or an enterprise agreement cannot provide conditions that are less than the National Employment Standards, and they cannot exclude any of the National Employment Standards. So that's important, again, a safety net for employees, to ensure that these 10 things are written into every agreement that is in place in Australia. So The National Employment Standards stipulate things like maximum weekly hours, which is normally 38 hours of work, requests for flexible work arrangements where individuals can request for flexibility arrangements, parental leave, annual leave, personal carers and compassionate leave, community service leave, long service leave, public holidays have to be in an agreement, notice of termination and the type of and the amount of redundancy pay has to be in an agreement, as well as any Fair Work information statement has to be in there. So they're the things that have to be in every single agreement to ensure that there is a real safety net for employees within our country. So just to recap, the types of agreements in a decentralised system are awards, which set the minimum wages and conditions for an entire industry, collective agreements, which is an agreement between an employer and a group of employees, it's an enterprise bargaining agreement, and then an individual contract, or an individual agreement, which is a common law contract and settled in the courts. So for questions, activities and more on this video, then come on over to teachingbubble.com.